They say drain the swamp. That basically is talking about getting rid of the corrupt political leaders.
Talking about, getting rid of corruption in, D.C., right? Which that's a hard ask.
Yeah.
But what I don't think people realize either is part of that swamp is the military leadership. They're all involved in it in some form or fashion, right?
Yeah.
So these officers who pick up rank to the point of general or admiral, they're politicians in uniform. So they become yes men at a certain point in their career to pick up rank. And
they have to.
A lot of them, I'd say a large percentage of them, are left-leaning, right? So they're pushing the left's agenda into the military, which is why recruitment is down like it is in the military right now, because what they're pushing down now is, or they have been, is the whole, well, Milley said it in one thing. He's like, I want to know why there's white rage in the military. The whole
white rage?
Yeah. What's that? The CRT, remember that? Critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pushing that into the military. The whole gender crap is, like you can pick whatever gender you want to be in the military and the government will pay for it. That is like their main focus, instead of building a fighting force that, that we've had in the past that other countries fear. But now it's, all this other woke BS, which is why recruitment's down. But that's the reason they push those agendas down into the military, so they can pick up ranks, so they can cozy up next to whatever administration's in office. Right now the Biden administration, and obviously we know that that's their main focus as well. Mm-hmm. So all these generals and admirals, they're yes men, dude.
Do you think they get in there? Do you think it's like a slow moving back of it? It's like, okay, they get in there and they have like, okay, I'm here to make a difference and to lead and to be a part of leadership. And then like, no, the way you play the game in order to grow in leadership here is you got to compromise.
I'm sure when they start off early in their career, when they're young officers, I don't think they could have pictured, where they're like Milley, when he was just a young first lieutenant or whatever they call him in the Army. He probably couldn't have pictured himself right where he's at right now, pushing the type of things he's pushing. But that's the name of the game for those people. I mean, they're ladder climbers. So, and here's the other thing, like once they hit a certain rank, and I don't know which one, like if it's 04 or 05, in order for them to get promoted, it has to be signed off by Congress, by somebody in Congress, right? Mm-hmm. So again, if they have some leftist-leaning congresswoman or congressman to sign off on it, the reason they're signing off on that is because they know that person's going to go ahead and push that at whatever agenda that they want. Mm-hmm. And that's how they end up picking up rank, getting extra stars on their shoulders or whatever, and they get to the top. And here's the other thing too is, and I've seen this throughout my whole career. They're like Milley, you see him, in his uniform, and he's like got the massive stack of ribbons, and everyone's like, "Oh man, he's, combat proven." No, he's not. That dude hasn't probably never kicked in a door, never been on the front lines. Like most officers, he's earned those ribbons off the blood, sweat, and tears of enlisted men and women below them.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. So.
As a civilian, I would look at that and I go, well, I mean, look at all that. I mean, this dude's been through everything. I would look at that and think
he's full of shit, dude. And here's the thing. He's not the only one. I mean, I've seen it. So to give you an example, this has happened on multiple deployments. We're about to go do an op, which we do all the time. Some officer will show up that we haven't seen before. And he's like, hey, I'm going out with you guys as like a strap hanger. I'm just going to sit in the Humvee or the MATV or whatever. So we'll go out, do an operation.
Strap hanger?
Yeah, like.
Just hangs on the straps.
Yeah, he's just, along for the ride.
Yeah.
He's not part of the operation. He's not doing the work. And we don't want him to either. Yeah. It's like, dude, we don't know you, but we'll go out, do our job, come back. That officer will literally leave that Humvee or MATV, go back to where they came from, and put themselves in for a combat award because they went out on a combat mission, but they didn't do anything, right? That's how they do that on purpose, so that it's like putting something on your resume, like, oh, see, I've been to combat. And it's like, you really haven't. And, I think that proved, was proven during the Afghan withdrawal. You saw how, like, inadequate or just incompetent that plan was, right? And everyone, I mean, anybody that looked at that can be like, what were you guys thinking, right? My youngest son, Ryan, could have come up with a better plan in 10 minutes. If I'm like, hey, we have to evacuate all these people. You have this, this, and this. What would you do? He'd probably come up with a better plan. But the reason that plan was so dicked up is because the leaders that we have no experience. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Do
they not consult the guys on the ground of going, hey, like?
They don't listen. No, they don't consult, and half the time they don't listen. It's an elitist attitude, dude. Like, they all have this elitist attitude, and it's the same attitude as what's going on, in the White House and with the administration, like, rules for thee, but not for me. I can do what I want, but you can't. And, even if I do something wrong, I'll never get held accountable for it, nor will I admit that I did anything wrong.
Yeah, like, we are going to take away your guns, but I'm going to have, like, armored personnel.
Like, yeah, I mean, private. It's all hypocrisy, right? And that is, I think, one of the major problems that we have, why recruitment is so low, is because our military leadership, the country knows it too. I mean, it's being exposed, and they're like, people don't want their sons or daughters going to work for these individuals with these people in charge, because they've proven time and time again that they don't give a shit about the men and women below them. They're making decisions for their own betterment, not for the people that they're leading. And people have that figured out.
See, it's hard. I understand it, but like, I think of in the private world, running a company, you want it. Yes, sometimes you have to make decisions that the guys under you don't understand necessarily, or they're not looking at the big picture. You are, but you never really make decisions that you're not factoring in all their experience, and you're talking with them, getting their feedback, because you want to make the best decision.
Exactly. Right. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where, as a leader, you have to make a decision that is probably not agreeable with some of the people that you're in charge of, right? But it's up on you as a leader to explain that to them. Be like, hey, I'm making this decision because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And you can be blunt about it too, and be like, hey, this is a decision I'm making.
Yeah.
And, if you have any gripes or complaints, let me know now, but we are going to go this way. And then you listen to your people's gripes and complaints, and maybe come up with a solution that, can put them at ease a little bit. But in the end, you're in the military. It's like, you're going to do what you're told. But here's the thing, like, the decisions that are being made by these leaders are getting people killed. It's not like a little decision where it's like, oh, I got to, go stand watch for 12 hours because you got to do this. Like, that's nothing. Like, they're literally putting people in danger. And then when people get killed, they're like, well, nope, it was a victory. Victory. It's like, no, anytime we lose somebody, it's not a victory, right? We lost an American service member. It shouldn't be, but that's, with the Afghan withdrawal, we lost the 13 service members during that, and that's not even mentioned, right? They won't even hear it. They're like, no, it was a victory.
There's no accountability.
Yeah, and that's the common theme too. It's like no accountability whatsoever for leaders at all. And I think that's what people are seeing.
Yeah. Well, I think of even in your last deployment, right? With you were leading for the most part, right? Like, I know you had someone beside you that was.
I had an officer, yeah.
But you were the chief.
I was the chief, so I'm in charge of the tactical picture, right? I'm the tactical lead.
So
the
like,
officer is strategic. Like,
okay.
he's in charge, like you said, big picture, up and out. I'm looking down and in.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good way to put it. But like even then, I think of you as the leader. You're tasked with putting your team in dangerous situation. Like that's your job, is to go after them. So you're putting yourself in positions where they can get killed, but yet you're doing it in the safest way. Like, you didn't lose anyone in your last one, did you?
No, thank God. But yeah, it's, well, when you have a dangerous job, right? You have a job that's, you're expected to be in danger most of the time. But what you do is you come up with plans and contingencies to try and mitigate all that, to try and mitigate people getting hurt or killed, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is war, and things happen that are out of your control sometimes.
For sure.
But it's up on you as a leader to come up with a plan that mitigates the most amount of risk.
But
right?
you're not losing someone because of
Trying to mitigate the most amount of risk.
Sure. But you're not losing someone because you're like, well, I was lazy and I didn't think through it, or I just needed to like make a move to move me up politically.
Yeah, no.
Like, you lost someone because of all the factors that involved in you going after ISIS.
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple incidents. We took a rocket one time, and luckily, just our interpreter got hit, but he survived. And then a couple guys took some shrapnel, and then our EOD guy got shot during one day when we were out, and it literally was, it was quiet out, nothing. We were sneaking up into position on a rooftop, and it was just one shot rang out, and he got smacked in the leg.
You worked on him too, didn't you?
Yeah, myself and another medic worked on him. He's back operating now. But,
Sweet.
You come back and you do an after-action report and debrief, and like, okay, how did this happen? What could we have done to prevent it?
Yeah.
And bottom line is, it's like sometimes shit happens, man. And
sometimes you couldn't prevent
we don't know
that.
where that round came from. I'm pretty sure to this day it wasn't even ISIS. It was probably one of the partner force who, saw some movement on a roof and took a shot. But I don't know that for sure. But I just, the way the round came in and smacked him in the leg, it wasn't from the front line. Mm-hmm. It was perpendicular to us. So,
like when you took on the job of being chief, did you, and I contrast this to government, did you feel the weight of that responsibility of like these? Like, I feel like you already had the weight even when you weren't chief of like, these are my brothers. Like, I'll take a bullet for them.
Yeah, that's the thought process you have from when you're a new guy all the way up until however long you're going to be in is, you're out there making sure that the guy to the right and left of you comes home, and you're willing to give your life to make that happen, right? And each person has that same thought process, which is what makes us such a good fighting force, So yeah, there's politics and all that other BS don't come into play when it comes to planning missions or operations, at least not in the enlisted side. I'm sure on the officer side and a little bit up, that's for sure. Even my last deployment, that you could tell that there was politics in play, right? Because they were like, hey, you guys can't go to the front line. You have to be 800 yards behind the front line, right? Or ahead of the front line, however you want to look at it. And when we started operating and following that rule, it was like, dude, we weren't getting anything done. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, what are we doing out here? Mm-hmm. And they literally were like fine with it. They were like, well, just keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And we're like, dude, well, we're not going to win. Like, we're literally making no progress doing this. We're flying the drone and, we're dropping some bombs, but the our partner force wasn't making any forward movement. And it wasn't until we pushed the envelope and we're like, nope, we're going to skirt up a little bit and start engaging with organic weapons, our own organic weapons. And that's when the partner force saw that. And two things happened. You know, they started moving. They're like, okay, nice. These guys are getting in the fight, and we earn their respect, right? Before that, they were like, dude, what are you guys? I mean, they were pissed that we weren't getting involved. And after thinking about it, it's like, I don't think we were trying to win as fast as we did, because they want to keep the military-industrial complex going. And they're like, as long as we just keep this war going.
For money?
Oh, yeah. It all comes down to money.
No.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter who gets killed.
Yeah.
It's like, as long as they're filling those pockets.
I can't imagine that as a leader. Like I feel the weight of, like, even my employees, of like, hey, they got families and they have bills, and like, this company has to be doing good so that they can take care of their family, you know? And like, I own that in a sense. Like, I can't imagine being a leader over people's lives, and not just their time, but their like actual lives, and not feel the weight of that. And when you lose 13 members out of not going back and going, man, dude, we need to go over this and see where we screwed up, where we can do better.
You're talking about the withdrawal?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing was just an abomination. And, you know, I remember waking up that morning when it was being shown, you know, on TV, and you've seen all the Afghans trying to hang on to the planes and everything. I mean, literally, like, and I'm not like the most emotional person. I'm working on it, but I had like tears in my eyes watching it, because I was like, dude, how is this happening in this fashion right now? Like, there's no way, like, a better plan could not have, you know, taken place, or somebody who looked at the original plan didn't go, hey, this doesn't seem right. Let's think this out and come up with a better plan, right? But again, I'm sure the Biden administration was like, nope, let's do this, because they're doing it for political reasons, to say, hey, I was the first president to, you know, evacuate everybody and end the war in Afghanistan. So they're like, just hurry up, press the button, and get it done. But it's on the generals and admirals to sit that president down, or whoever's like making the calls, and being like, hey, dude, all right, we'll do the withdrawal, but let's do it correctly. Mm-hmm. Let's do it in a fashion where we don't get service members killed. We're not leaving how many thousands of Americans behind, or the poor Afghans that helped us out during the whole entire war. We just left them, right? And it came down to veterans, really, who had already been out, who had served over there, who really rallied up and were like, okay, we're going to try and fix this problem and get people out. I mean, and that's, like, but Jared. Like Jared. I mean, there's plenty of other guys that's cool, were involved in doing stuff like that. And
that's cool, but that's sad.
Exactly, dude. And I mean, that's a common theme throughout, right? So, like, even with the suicide epidemic, or like the mental health catastrophe that's going on with guys and girls getting out after serving 20 years, especially in the past 2 decades they've been at war, there's not enough being done for these individuals. And I'm not saying they should be like catered to, but I do think there needs to be more done, because the suicide epidemic is still rampant. No one talks about it. It's still ongoing. And it's shooters taking care of shooters. The guys, enlisted guys, are standing up, you know, creating nonprofits, creating foundations that are helping these individuals, but you don't see the VA or the military doing anything like that. Their focus is supposed to be on building a better fighting force, and, you know, it's a big machine. But, dude, from what I'm seeing and what everybody else is seeing, it's like not only are they not doing that, they're now focused on the woke agenda and, what gender are you, or, all this other crap, the critical race theory and all this other BS, but they're completely turning a blind eye to the real epidemic of what's going on is dudes are taking their lives all the time because they're, mentally jacked up from what the military asked them to do, And, yes, you volunteered, great, and that's on you. But at the same time, I don't think the military was prepared for this outcome of being at war for 20 years and the repercussions. So, again, it's shooters taking care of shooters, and it shouldn't. It's good that it's happening, but it's also unfortunate that it has to happen in that way. That not enough is being done by the institution itself.
Yeah. I think of it. I think of like the level of problems, that high of a level, and so many of them that even if they don't end up committing suicide, they're living suboptimally, right? They have a lot of PTSD. They've lacking purpose, right? And needing that camaraderie and is there not that much funding that goes towards that stuff?
There is plenty of funding. I mean,
but is it not used well? Maybe
there's plenty of nonprofits out there that are out there to help individuals. But the thing is, it's such a finicky subject because I think what happens is guys get out and they isolate themselves, right? They don't want to bother anybody with their problems. Everybody's always worse off than they are, which is not true. And they're like, well, I'm just going to sit here, drink, take whatever multiple prescriptions that the VA has given me, and literally they just go down a hole until eventually they put a gun in their mouth. And so I don't know. I think there needs to be more done. And yeah, I mean, I think we could definitely put more funding into solving that problem. But we're sending 130-something billion over to Ukraine to continue the military-industrial complex and keep those same companies like Raytheon and Boeing and all those other ones making money.
Do you think it gets stopped without Trump? I like the way that I think of it is.
Do I think what can be stopped without Trump? Like the
draining the swamp, like changing the political aspect of America?
I don't know if anybody has the balls to do it besides him, honestly. He's a proven candidate, and it's obvious, like, all these indictments and all this bullshit they're putting him through is because they know he's a threat to the swamp.
Oh.
He's a threat to the way they've been doing business, and they do not want him back in that White House at all.
Because I see that.
He's proven that he has a thick skin, he has a strong backbone, and he will get shit done.
Yeah.
And I think he only had 4 years last time, and he literally was fighting against the swamp while he was in the White House. He was surrounded by it. And I think one of his, mistakes was not clearing that out and being like, bringing in a whole new team. But I think, just like any good leader, he's like, cool, I learned my lesson. I'm going to change it in this next go around. So yeah, I don't see, because and another thing is Trump's not a politician.
Yeah.
Right? He's not.
Which is why a lot of people love him.
Yeah.
Because they're sick of the politician.
Well, and also he's inspiring. He really is. He, and I know people are like, oh my gosh, Trump. I'm like, dude, he's more inspiring than anybody else that we have on the ticket right now. because he's not scared to stand up and go, no, we're not doing that. This is the way we're doing it. We're putting America first. And he really does love this country. Like, he doesn't have to be president, dude. He could literally live his best life. He was already, he's a billionaire. He doesn't have to do this. He's doing it because he loves his country and he cares about it. And he knows how great we used to be. And he's like, we can bring that back. And the amount of shit that he takes on a daily basis, his family takes on a daily basis, and he keeps fighting, that's the guy that I want, right? I want that dude in charge, and I don't care if he's not well-spoken and, he's not very presidential. And, dude, that right there is a red flag to me. If someone gets up there and has a silver tongue and they can, oh my gosh, he sounds so good. Who gives a shit, dude? What are his actions? I don't care what his words are. They're all lying. They all get up there and lie. I was telling somebody the other day, like, did you watch the Republican debates, whatever that went on, right? With all the other yahoos that are running. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not watching that. I'm like, that's like watching a trailer to a movie, and you're like, dude, this movie looks awesome. And then you go see the actual movie, and it's like, dude, this movie sucks. It's like, because they only put the little best pieces of 3 minutes, and then in reality, it's a shit show of a movie. It's the same thing the way I look at it, it's the same thing with these debates, man. They have this certain amount of time, and they're just saying what they need to say, hoping that people are like, oh my gosh, I like that. And it's like, dude, this individual's not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great example. Dude, do you think that some of what they're doing is, like all the indictments and all that stuff, one, I'm really surprised if you have the full left side of the government coming at you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised, like, they've barely found anything. Like, I'm like, goodness gracious, you come after me, you'll probably find a lot more than you found in Trump. Like, I'm sure there's something.
Oh, for sure. And, it's all antics, dude. It's all just to keep him from running again.
Yeah.
And to try and sway people's minds. But what they don't realize is, like, the more they come after him, the more support he's going to get.
That's what
because
I was
it's
gonna
like,
ask.
dude, we see what you're doing. The gig is up, man, for most of us. Like, we know the game.
Yeah.
And they just keep going down that.
Do you think they underestimate, like, Americans being bright and knowing what's going on? Like, they won't know. They're just going to see headlines and think, oh, man, he's a bad guy.
I think there might be some of that, but I think they just don't give a shit. They don't care what you think. They're like, we know better, And everything is so blatant nowadays that I think most of it is they just don't give a shit what we think.
Yeah.
Because everything's right in front of our face. They literally lie. This president that we have now, I don't know how many lies he's told. The guy just makes stuff up. And it's like blatant lies. And then there's nothing. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Like, so what? And everyone just sort of goes along with it. They're like, oh, okay. And then, we laugh at it. And we're like, oh, yeah, he's old and decrepit and sort of out of his mind. But it's like, dude, there is some real red flags, or has been some major red flags. Like, not only is this guy unfit to be president, but his character is flawed to a degree that, I don't think we've seen in a long time. And I'm not saying, anybody that runs for president is picture, perfect and clean. But I think this has been the most, like, in our face. Like, we don't give a shit what you guys think. And we're going to keep running this show. And we're going to,
You think do you see a resurgence, like a taking back of, or men starting to step up? Do you think people are starting to see all the political crap that's going on and turning away from it and going, okay, you know what? Maybe Trump was right.
I don't know. I think there's maybe some. But I also think the deep hatred for Trump on the left is like blinding to, it just blinds them to everything else. I mean, it's always, if you point out something like, dude, look at what this administration is doing now, to somebody on the left that is an extreme anti-Trumper, their response is like, yeah, but what about Trump? What about when Trump did this? And it's they constantly compare, and it's like, dude, well, Trump's not in office right now. This guy is, and he's fucking ruining this country in a lot of ways. But they'd rather have that than Trump, because they've been brainwashed to hate Trump by the media.
Yeah, I don't know.
The media did a hell of a job when Trump ran and when he was in office of just getting half this country to absolutely hate him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, dude, take my mom, for example. Dude, extreme anti-Trumper.
Really?
My brother, all of them. They were like, we were sort of like the black sheep of the family, because I was like, I'm voting for him, you know. And I actually took Trevin. It was his, I forget which birthday it was like 16th. But I was like, hey, buddy, what do you want to do today? And there just happened to be a Trump rally going on in San Diego. And he's like, I want to go to that rally. And so I took him down there. And, we were all about him. And it was for that reason. It's because I was like, dude, this guy is not a politician.
Yeah.
And he's saying exactly what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
But my parents have changed their tune since then, especially with what I went through, and they saw, Trump stepped in
and gave you a fair shot.
Yes.
He did not.
He didn't pardon me.
He
didn't. That's always people still to this day like, oh, you're pardoned. I'm like, no, dude, I went to trial. The thing is, I had all of these rights violated. I was being mistreated, and he saw that, and he was like, no, this can't happen this way.
The fact that a president would step in there and go, no, this is not right, on just a single case, I mean, that's pretty impressive. But you do hear constantly, oh yeah, Trump pardoned him.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, no.
It's because there was a Green Beret and another Army officer that were pardoned by him. And it was around, going on at the same time I was, so I sort of got thrown into that. And I remember seeing some of the news, like they'd have our three faces up there, and I'm like, dude, I actually went to trial.
Yeah.
Like, and during, before my trial, we did get word, I think my lawyer's like, hey, he's thinking about pardoning you, before you go to trial. And both me and Andrea were staunch, like, no, we don't want to be pardoned. Like, we're innocent, and we're going to trial to prove it. So I wasn't pardoned. What he did is they tried to take away my retirement and everything I'd done over the past 20 years. And he was like, no, this guy's going to retire with everything that he earned, and that's that. And so, he didn't pardon me, but he did help us out in ways that, I mean, I don't think any other president would have stepped in and done it. You'd thank God, like if Hillary Clinton was in office, I'd be sitting behind bars right now for the rest of my life.
She'd have put you up on a cross and up on the stake, and
she tweeted about me. She was like, this guy's grotesque or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing is the left and the media, they love to portray, he's, he doesn't give a shit. Trump doesn't care about this country, or Trump, everything he does is an act. It's like, no, it's not, dude. I've met him multiple times. The guy genuinely loves his country. He genuinely loves the military. He loves the military, and he loves having a strong fighting force, and he's always looking out to take care of us, of the men and women that serve. That's not an act.
I feel like you can't say those two things. Those two things are almost synonymous. If you love this country, you love the military. You love the people that protect our freedoms.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's your train of thought. And, I think the region that we live in, it's train of thought. But if you go out west or some places up north, you'll have people who says, yes, I love this country, but I don't like the military. Right. It's, but that's, and here's the thing, that's their God-given right. It's like, okay, you can think like that. That's fine. That's why
it's wrong.
We went over there to fight and to protect our freedoms, and that's why men and women have signed up in years past to go over there and fight, is so you can think like that. So you can have an opinion and you can state it. That's fine. Yeah. But the reality is, you should be appreciative of people that have given their lives so that you can say stuff like that. But because I remember hearing, especially after I got out, getting attacked in social media and everywhere else, and people were, talking shit, and you're just like, dude, at first you're like, how can people, think like this or say these things? But at the same time, it's like, well, we're in America. So they're allowed to, that's fine. Yeah. You're allowed to say that stuff. As long as you're not threatening me or my family directly, then great. Have your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But it's so wrong.
It's backwards. Yeah. I think it's backwards thinking, but
you're right though. That's part of the freedoms, right? You have the right to have your opinions and thoughts and express them.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I think of, though, is, we lose our military, we'll quickly lose all those freedoms. We get overtaken by another country. It's going to be their opinions and their thoughts and their ideology that's supreme.
Yeah. I think some of that's already creeping in regardless, right?
Yeah.
Now it's, and here's the other thing is, like we talked about, people can have their own opinions and thoughts, and I can sit here and be like we just said, oh, I think that's backwards, what you're thinking. But I'm not going to tell that individual, no, you must love the military. You must love this country. You have to, be like this and that, X, Y, Z. No, dude, if that's the way you want to think, I think it's backwards, but whatever. Mm-hmm. The problem is, on the flip side, now we're being told, oh, no, you have to think this way. Oh, no, you have to relinquish your children. The whole transgender thing. If you don't agree with it, then you're a bigot or you're a racist or you're this or that. They start calling you names, and you're like, dude, I can sit here. I don't have to agree with it. But like we talked about, it's a free country. But the second you start pushing that on me or my family, that's when there's an issue, dude. And that's where I think we sort of lost ourselves, where, there's certain groups out there that think this is the way I feel, and everybody else must, tiptoe around my feelings. Mm-hmm. And how dare you offend me in some form or fashion.
For sure. You have gay friends, right? I have friends that are gay.
I got you, Dave.
Yeah.
You went right into that one.
And I don't agree with it, but dude, I'm still great friends with them. They don't push it on me. They don't push it on my kids.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be I got friends that are, I'm sure, drug addicts or this or that. Me. But it's I still love them. And I'm I don't judge them, be like, well, you smoke crack, so therefore I don't like you. And I love you, but I don't think what you're doing is right. But at the same time, that's your life, man. Yeah. And that's just the thought process I have about.
You have the right to choose those.
You have the right to be like that.
Yeah. Where it starts getting over is where it's the pushing of, no, you have to. And you see it slowly. I see it with, I took my kids to, it was a Disney movie, cartoon, right? And there's a homosexual relationship that is, it used to, sometimes you'd see things in there that would be really covert in the movie, and you're like, wait a minute, that's an agenda. But then this one's really overt, right? Two boys dating each other in a cartoon movie, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah, I mean,
No,
that's,
and I got a 5-year-old,
well, they're indoctrinating your kids.
and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And my kids notice. I mean, the 5-year-old notices it. They're like, wait, what?
You know the easy
They're
way
both
to
boys.
combat that?
I don't go there. I don't go to the movies.
I don't watch it. It's like, okay, well, I guess we're not watching this show anymore.
Exactly.
You know, it's as simple as that. You don't have to get up in a fit of rage about it and be like, you know, these damn gays in the cartoon, you know, like people flip out. It's like, no, just don't watch it, dude. And that's how you have to sort of combat everything nowadays. It's like, dude, if a certain company's putting out something that you don't agree with, then don't buy from there.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think there's opportunities there too to, like, you know, if I would have known that before going in, I wouldn't have taken them. But like, there's an where there's struggles, there's also opportunities sometimes where it's like, okay, you could start making cartoons or movies that were all appropriate, non-agenda pushing cartoons.
yeah.
You know, or start a rating system that will rate them and tell parents. I think there's a couple of them out there that will, like, someone will go and watch the movie and then give parents like a lowdown of it before they take them. You know, stuff like that. I think there is opportunities there, but around. Do you think, like, with the Afghan withdrawal specifically, who was like the main? Was there like one main leader over that who would you say, like, hey, the top guy over that should have been the one that held responsible of, oh, man, this was bad. This was really bad. This was 20 years of.
Well, I would think Millie.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I'm like, dude, you're a freaking general, and you should have stepped up and said, nope, this plan is not good. But the problem is, like we talked about earlier, all these officers are a bunch of yes men. They have no backbone. They're like a bunch of spineless jellyfish. So even when it's trickled down to the ranks and you have, you know, the officers that are actually over there, those officers don't know what to do. And there's a Marine, dude, I forget his name. He was just on the Sean Ryan podcast. He's triple amputee. He got blown up over there. He went and testified in Congress, and he was a sniper over there. And he testified that he had the suicide bomber in his sights before, and was like, hey, this is the guy. This is the description we got, and can we take the shot? And the officers were like, I don't know. That's the answer. I don't know if you can. Well, then he was like, well, who does know? And he's like, I don't know. So there was no leadership. Nobody was stepping up, making a call.
This is the bomber that killed those.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's the problem, is when you have a bunch of yes men. Nobody has the balls to step up and be like, nope, I'm making the call. Shoot, take him out. And I don't care. I'm putting my rank on the table. But nobody has the balls to do that anymore. I mean, you saw what happened with that Marine colonel who spoke out. Our Pipe Hitter Foundation actually got behind him and supported him. But he spoke out against the withdrawal. He was in uniform and was like, pretty much said exactly what we were all thinking. He was like, this was a catastrophe. Who the hell is making these calls? They went after him. They're like, you're done. And because he called out the obvious. That's why you don't have officers stepping up, putting their rank on the table, being like, nope, I'm making the call, because they're all scared. They're all scared that their careers are going to get ruined. And just like I said, they're all worried about their own careers instead of the men and women below them. And that's the problem.
Is it all, would you say all officers, or it's just the officer system, like where they go?
I think it's the system, right? I don't think officers in general are bad human beings or shitty leaders. I mean, I do think that the academies like Annapolis and West Point need to be revamped. I think they need to have someone go in there that is not part of the system and be like, I want to see the curriculum that you guys are putting out. and it needs to be revamped because I think what's being taught in there is elitism, careerism, and not actually leading men and women.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what you have is these officers come out of these academies, and some of them don't go to academies. They do ROTC or whatever officer program. I forget what it's called. That they go to college and then become an officer afterwards. I just think the way the system is set up for those individuals, like they probably start off their career as like, gung-ho leaders that are there for the right reason. But once they start picking up rank, they're like, oh shit, I see how this works. And I think what happens is a lot of the good ones get out because they're like, I'm not conforming to this. I'm not going to put up with this. And I've seen it. I've seen great officers just like, no, I'm done. Like, I can't do this.
No.
But that's the way the system is designed right now, and I think that needs to be changed as well.
That's like their only choice, really. It's like, okay, I'm not going to change the whole system, so I'm either going to get out and keep my integrity intact, or I'm going to go along with the path.
Yeah, conform and be a conformist. And it's, the same thing happens in the enlisted side as well. I mean, it's the same BS. When I picked up chief, which is like in the Navy, that's like the big step up, now you're a chief and they make a big deal out of it. But really, in reality, now you're a conformist. You're part of the institution. You're part of the system, right? Oh. And as a chief, you will put out exactly what we want you to put out because you're part of the system now. You're one of us. And I was like, no, I'm not. I fucking hate.
Did you tell them, hey, I'm an anti-conformist?
Yeah, they knew it. When I had to go, so when you pick up chief, you have to go do this whole like indoctrination, chief indoctrination that's like a month long, right? And they play games with you, and it's like it's so gay. There's nothing like cool about it, and I wasn't having it. I was like, I'm not doing this bullshit, because it was just like it's like playing patty cakes, and I was like, I've been in at that point for like 18 years, and I was like, I'm not putting up with this. But the one thing they made me do was they have like a heck night, which I think it used to be called Hell Night, but can't call it hell anymore. It's heck night, and you're up for 24 hours, like getting messed with, and what they have is they have other chiefs, senior chiefs there, yelling at you and like asking you questions, and it's all very like basic leadership stuff, which it's like, dude, as a new guy SEAL, you know all this already, but yeah, I wasn't there. I mean, I remember some guy and a chick got in my face, and they were like telling me to get wet and sandy and this and that, and I just looked at him. I was like, I'm not fucking doing this. I was like, first off, don't get in my face, and I'm not playing this game. And they had to have one of my best friends, who was already a chief, come down and like chaperone me through the whole thing, because they're like, he's a problem. He's not playing the game. And that's the attitude I have. I was like, yeah, I will lead, and I'm going to go do the job, but I am not going to conform. Oh. And which is probably why some of the stuff happened to me, but I don't care. Like, it's, I'm not built for that, which some people are. I got one of my best friends right now is a Master Chief, and he knows how to play the game. He's a great Master Chief, great leader, cares about the dudes below him, but he also knows how to play the game a little bit, and I just don't. I'm like, I can't stomach it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's how with some of these officers that get to that certain point, they're like, I can't stomach this, dude. I can't play the politics and all the bureaucracy and this and that. So yeah. Yeah.
When I was going through counselor after counselor and rehabs and all that stuff, how many times I was diagnosed oppositionally defiant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Authority, what is it? Defiance, authority, or authority, defiance. I forget the term.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have that. And
Yeah.
I see it in my kids.
But what's wild is at the same time you give those guys a runway and let them have take the responsibility on. They're some of the best leaders.
Yeah, let them
Right?
eat. Like, here's your task.
Yeah.
Go.
In fact, like
Get it done.
I imagine you're the same way. It's like you explain to me, hey, like here's the goals, here's what we got to accomplish. Like, come along, help. Like, here's the main things that need to happen, right? We need to push ISIS out or all this. Okay, like you'll lead incredibly in doing it. It's like, okay, I'll nail those goals.
All you need to be given is some right and left lateral limits. Like, hey, man, just don't do this and don't do this.
Yeah.
The rest, figure it out.
Yeah.
How to do it. Like, it's on you to figure it out. And that's where I think a lot of us thrive in. It's like, okay, here's this space that I have to work in, and I can do whatever to try and get the job done. And I'm not being told how to do it, when to do it. You know, it's on me.
Yeah. And what they did to you though is they said, here's our goal, and you're like, got it. I'm on it. Like, we're gonna push ISIS out of this city. And they go, your right and left limits. Now they're getting down to the point that you can't accomplish the goal of why you're there.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely some of that. Like I talked about earlier, you know, the whole not going on the front lines and getting the speeches by these admirals that would show up like, this isn't our fight. Don't, it's not worth your life, but it's like, dude, you're not the ones going out there every day, dodging IEDs, dodging V-bids. You're not putting your life on the line every day. Don't tell me how to operate out there when you're not fucking stepping foot out there, right? And don't give me these asinine rules where I can't get the job done. Like, perfect examples, like one day we were out there and we were getting mortared pretty heavily. They were landing all, within 20 yards and then 15 yards. And so there was a building 100 yards up. I was like, hey, we're requesting move into this building. And they were like, denied. You cannot push forward any farther. And I'm like, well, we're taking mortars right now, and that's the place to cover. And they're like, nope. And so we're like, okay, then we'll come back to base. And they're like, yeah, you can't do anything. So that was a frustrating thing. Is like, dude, we literally, all we had to do was move up to that building and we could accomplish what we need to accomplish out here, but you're restricting us. And that's where, as a leader, I was like, I'm not playing this game. Like, are we here to win? Are we here to get the job done? Or am I here to just follow the rules and, wait till the next SEAL platoon comes in here to hopefully finish the job, and keep this thing ongoing? No.
Problem is they weren't too concerned with finishing the job.
I don't think so.
When you think back of the war now, I mean, you've been out 5 years, about 5?
About 5.
Yeah. Like, what are some of the memories you go back to? Like, do you think about it like when you're running, you're preparing for the race?
No, I don't think about it too much at all.
Really?
No, like only when I'm around my friend, my old teammates and everything. Yeah, like that's when the old remember when conversations. That's when a lot of the stuff you could start remembering. But I try to focus on moving forward and what am I doing next. Because I'm grateful and I feel privileged for the time that I had in the military and what I got to do. I mean, we actually got to go play the game.
Yeah.
But there was also, if you look back on it, you can get frustrated. You can, especially with the way things ended up. It's like, well, I'm not going to dwell on it. I mean, that has already happened.
Can't change it.
No, I can't change it. So I just try to keep moving forward.
What was is there a specific slice in time or like slice in deployments that you were like, man, this was like a sweet spot that I had just such a good group with me that we were just, it was a blast.
Oh, I mean, I had multiple deployments like that. Yeah, I mean, my first 2 or 3 were awesome. I had just the best dudes around me. I mean, I had the great leaders, just great mentors. And yeah, it was like, I don't want to ever do anything else. Like, this is it. And I want to do this job until I cannot walk anymore, or I can't physically do it. And yeah, I mean, the best memories, I mean, I have are like the coolest ones, or, I mean, just, I remember flying into one target one night, you know, on a Black Hawk, and you're just sort of dangling your legs out, and we're, you know, going, it was like a couple-hour flight, and just looking out into the landscape, and you're, you know, we're flying over different fobs, and they're in firefights. You're seeing tracers go back and forth, and you're just like, dude, you know, you're on, nods, just watching this. And I was like, bro, this is so badass. Like, I don't want to be anywhere else. And then another one, you know, the best times are like when we're actually patrolling into target, doing like a long infill, and you just, you know, if you just stop and look around at the guys, and you're just like, dude, this is sick. Like, we are a bunch of ninjas about to go in there and, you know, hopefully wreck shop. You know, those are experiences that you'll never have, you know, again. And those are like the good memories. Like, I got to work with like the best of the best, you know, and I was grateful to be there.
What's it like to be on a team of like such high level professionals and work? I think of like, that's one of the highest level of teamwork, right? Of being able to work as a unit, and you know, you go left, you know, your guys going right and cover. And what's it like to be synchronized like that with the team, like going in and clearing a building, and I'm in it, and everyone does their own part. Is when you're in sync like that, is there nothing like that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the reason you're in sync like that is because you've put in the work beforehand, right? You've trained your ass off together for a year. You know, you can literally look at somebody's outline at night and be like, you know exactly who that person is by the way they walk. And maybe they have like a little hitch in their step, or the way they wear their helmet. You're like, oh, that's, you know, Dave or whoever. But I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to put in all the work beforehand and then see it come to fruition when you go hit a target, and everybody knows their exact job, and you don't have to worry, right? As a, like, oh, is this person going to go do this and protect me? It's like, it's not even a thought. It's like, we're going, and I know I'm with a bunch of professionals. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. You're with a bunch of professionals that know their job, and we're all there for the same reason.
That's so cool. Who would you say is the most badass Navy SEAL that you've known?
I mean, dude, it's hard to call out just one.
I know.
You know,
Drago's pretty badass.
Drago's a legend. He's awesome. I mean, there are dudes, and here's the thing, like, there are dudes that no one's ever going to hear about, that are never going to come out and be like, I did this or I did that are absolute fucking legends, that are warriors. And they're humble, and they're like, yeah, I did it. I mean, there's guys with like 18, 20 deployments.
Jeez.
Right? Those guys, you know, my hat's off to them, and you know, those are the type of individuals that I looked up to, that constantly strove to like be the best, but they knew they would never get there. You know, they strive for excellence, but know that you're never there. That you're constantly can be better, and that type of attitude trickles down to the dudes around them, and everybody sort of wants to take on that same mindset. You know, and I can't name like one individual.
There's several. Was it really cool to hear Drago put you up there when he was on our podcast?
Yeah, I mean,
are you kind of like,
Yeah, it's always, you know, you're like, no. I mean, it's definitely like, humbling to hear him say that, especially because I looked at him as, especially coming up, like I talked about, it's like that's the guy that you heard stories about, and then to hear him say it back, you're like, what? But yeah, I mean, I don't do that, and that's the thing. I don't view myself like that at all. It was like, dude, I did some stuff. I did some more than others, but I also did less than a lot. So it's like, I was just there trying to earn my spot daily.
Yeah. Do you in your head, do you contribute some is like, man, I got just the luck of the draw in some scenarios of being able to be at the right places, the right times? And
yeah, there's some of that. There's definitely, be in the right place, right time, but there's also ways to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And once you figure the system out and like how, I mean, like before you deploy, the teams have to choose, what platoon's going to what area of operations, right? So right from there, you're already like, okay, how can we position ourselves to get into the best spot, right? So then you're playing that game before you deploy to try and get to the right spot. And there's ways to do it. One is perform better than everybody else. That's number one. Yeah. But of course, politics and all that bullshit gets involved too. So, so you have to sort of play that in a little bit. But the best thing you can do is just outperform everybody as a platoon. And then when you're actually in country, right, and going to hit these targets, you can, once you have enough experience, you can look at like the target you're going to hit the night before and be like, okay, if I was the enemy, I'd probably come from here. And so when you're on target, you position yourself where you think the enemy's going to come from, and that way you're going to get the most, shoot somebody. You're like, all right. And usually, once you get good enough at it and you have enough experience, it comes to fruition sometimes.
Yeah. Did you have moments throughout your career that you were like, holy shit, I'm like a legit Navy SEAL doing ninja stuff? Like you mentioned, when you're flying on the Black Hawk, that deal, but like just different times that you're like, there's nowhere like this is the coolest thing ever.
I think
I visioned it, but now it's reality.
I think during like I talked about like flying the Black Hawk or patrolling a target, but once you're actually engaged or doing stuff, there's no time. You're not thinking about like, oh my gosh, you're like, what's my job? What am I doing? And and then if you do your job, you don't have anything. Well, you look for work. What can I do next to improve the situation? Right. So you're not really like having time to look around and be like, dude, I can't believe.
Take some selfies.
Yeah. But there are like those little times like flying in on the bird or, patrolling in and just like looking around at the guys you're with and you're just like, dude, this doesn't get any sexier than this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's wild to me, Eddie, and what makes it so legit, because a lot of people they don't know you. I feel like I know you really well. Is you would have never come out and like talked about all this stuff. You never probably done a podcast or any of this stuff if all this stuff didn't happen to you.
No. Yeah, probably not. Which I consider that a blessing that it did happen. And as shitty as it was, it's given me opportunities, to better myself, to sort of put myself out there, make myself uncomfortable. And it's been good, and, having friends like you that sort of, push me or like give me the opportunities with you. I mean, it's been a blessing, and I think it's just, it's the way God works. Yeah. Like I got different plans for you. So
you nailed it. I mean, the bigger story is like God used that to set you up and grow. He's like, I got a plan for you, and it's actually probably going to end up being bigger than what you did before, and it's going to help a ton of people. And I'm going to use you for it, but this part's going to suck and you're not going to know why for a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to put you in the fire a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to break this. Like you've even said it before, like you had that idol of the SEAL team.
Yeah.
And you were like, man, it came before my family, like had to.
Yeah. It broke that for sure.
And
which it needed to.
He broke that because he loves you, you know? And it's, I don't know. God is so cool.
Yeah. He is the best for sure. Yeah. It's been a wild ride, you know, and then the big blessing, you know, is like I get to be home. With my kid. I spent more time with my kids in the past 5 years than I have over the past 20, you know, since I've had them. And it's just been awesome getting to see them, you know, grow up. And, you know, we got Trevin just left. He's in Marine Corps boot camp right now, you know, I think on his third week getting yelled at. But, you know, I was talking to Andrea yesterday because I think some memory popped up in her phone, and it was like when Trevin first went to college, which was 5 years ago. It was actually right when I got locked up. And we were both like, dude, that feels like ages ago, right? You know, time flies, but it's been good though, man. I mean, it's just like I would have never had this experience if that stuff hadn't happened.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I get to, you know, watch Ava go off to college and
Sweet
then
girl.
watch Ryan's, you know, kicking ass at wrestling, doing his stuff, and just being Ryan.
Yeah, you get to be the bumpers for and corral them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then we got this you know, this event coming up.
Yeah.
Which I've been training for, so that I wouldn't have this opportunity either.
Basically, for people that don't know, Eddie's life's been going too good, so he has to like throw some pain and
throw some
suffering.
chaos in there. Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think for the listeners, most of them probably listen to that podcast with me and Johnny. So yeah, that's coming up in November. The Monster Mash put on by NB, which is a company that is doing research and study and developing things to mitigate the suicide and mental health epidemic in this country. And they're really like making strides going forward. You know, they've come up with that app that really helps guys keep each other accountable. And they have a swim buddy, and if you're not doing good, the app will let your swim buddy know, like, hey, call this dude now. But, you know, and that's just like one step forward into fighting this epidemic and trying to mitigate it. But that's the reason we're doing this race, is to hopefully raise money that they can put more research and development into it, and then just bring awareness into, you know, what everybody should already know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're going to put ourselves through some pain and suffering.
Monster Mash is not like that. I would call it more like the death ray. It's like you skydive a mile and then you into the ocean, and then you swim.
A river. So it's a river in Montana. And that's like, so we're swimming 10 miles down that river. Hopefully there's a strong current going in our favor, and then but it'll be cold. It's gonna be at 40 degrees. But it's, you know, we're gonna have a kayaker per person that's gonna be following along with us, making sure, you know,
the kayaker's gonna be like, man, my arms are tired, man.
I'll be like, cool, let's switch out. I'll get in there and kayak. You can swim a little bit. Yeah, I might. You know, who knows? I might just reach my hand out and hold on to the kayak and be like, dude, tow me. But yeah, we're doing that 10 miles, and then immediately getting out, transitioning into the run for a 200-mile run with Kit, and everybody's doing it. It's not like a team effort where we're partitioning up the race. It's everybody's going to do everything.
4 days.
Now it's 3. So shit. I think 3 days and 3 nights. So there's no
sleeping.
We're gonna have the Giovanni, one of the guys that's doing the event with us, and he's also put together the training program. He works at Exos He has he's partitioned it up. So I think like every 50 miles, we'll have like a rest stop, like a couple hours, maybe an hour and a half. They'll have.
You can't sleep that long though, right?
I don't know, man. I mean,
Your body's got to lock up.
Yeah, like I've never done anything like this, so I'm sort of just going into it like.
You've never run 200 miles with a kit on your back? Jeez.
I mean, it's just you go into it like, oh, we'll see what happens. You know?
This morning before we're filming this, Eddie's like, well, I just ran he ran over a marathon this morning just before we filmed the podcast. It's like, I'm a little sore. It's like, dude, it's 30 miles. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been it's, you know what, man, it's good. I like it. I think at first when I signed off on it, I was like, yeah, I want to do this, or I'm gonna do it because my buddy asked me. I think it was a couple weeks of like, oh shit, like I can't believe I just signed up for this and I'm started training for it. But now I'm like, it's a purpose. It's like, okay, I have to train for this and perform, and it's for a good cause, and that's all that matters. It's like, we're not doing this to like, oh, look at us, this, blah, blah, blah. It's none of us are like ultra marathoners. No. I mean, if you see the guys that are, it's funny, the group of individuals that are, there's 8 of us, and we get on a call once a week. And I think it's so funny, dude, because everyone in their own, you could see they're like, oh shit, like, but nobody wants to say it. Everyone's like, everybody doing okay, and I think it's going to be a good example.
Because you really can't train completely for that, right? Like, you can train some.
I mean, you can get your body used to it. So, like, I ran for 4.5 hours this morning. It's just getting, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot more mental than anything, because either way, your body is going to be in pain. Like, at 200 miles straight, and with kit on, like, it's going to hurt, right? So
bad.
You just have to, like, the training that I'm doing now is just, I'm getting my legs, physically ready for it. But at the same time, it's more about just digging deep and being like, and sort of getting into that zone of like, all right, I'm doing this, and not letting those little thoughts, those intrusive thoughts come in that inevitably probably will, like, hey, we can take a break, or hey, man, just why are you running 4 hours? Just make it 2, dude. Just what's the difference? And it's like, no,
what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, but I think we're all going to be together, and I think that's why it's going to be a good example as well, especially for the reason why we're doing it, right? Because what we're trying to mitigate is like guys isolating themselves and not calling out for help, or vice versa, guys not reaching out to dudes that probably know they need help. This will be a good example because we're going to do this as a group, and I know, myself included, probably during that 200-mile excursion, you're going to hit a low point and be like, dude, I'm fucking hurting. But then the guy next to me is going to be like, no, man, we're going to keep going. Or, somebody will be there with you to motivate you, and vice versa. Like, you'll be that individual, like, hey, man, I got you. Let's go. And that's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Right. And I hope that when we do this event, people can see that. And we're actually having Kyron, who you've met, he's going to be there documenting the whole thing.
That's awesome.
So he's making a documentary out of it.
Which will make it badass.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the purpose, so people can see, like, dude, you can't do things on your own.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be vulnerable enough to lean on somebody and be like, hey, dude, I need help, or vice versa. Be the one to have that person lean on you and be like, okay, I'm going to carry some of your weight right now and help you get through this.
Yeah. What's funny is it's almost the exact opposite of how we started the podcast today, is talking about leadership, armchair quarterbacks, and making decisions, and then you guys going, no, we're going to come underneath for these guys suffering, and we're going to suffer.
Yeah. I mean, I've always, true leadership is leading by example, right? It's not just putting out orders and then being like, yeah, go get this done, and you're nowhere to be found, right? You should be doing everything that you're asking people to do, or should have done what you're asking individuals to do, right? And the people that work below you should see you do that, right? I mean, it's the little things like, taking out the trash or something like, hey, if you're not above that, man, or, you should do it. And then I'll tell you what happens is how you have a good leader, how is like, if like in the platoon space, if the chief is like, oh, and you see him going to take out the trash and somebody else is like, no, I got it. Let me do it. That's how you have a good leader, because those people below you respect you enough to be like, nope, you're a good leader. We'll handle this. But at the same time, you're showing them like, no, I'm not above this. I'll do it. Right.
Yeah. That's a good word.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good way to end it. Yeah. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Out.